Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154. Today, welcoming back to the channel Gredgy of the New Zealand native contingent, and surprise, surprise, he's back in a tank destroyer, a bit of a goddamn surgeon with his tank destroyers, and today it is the Tier 8 German tank destroyer Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger. Now, there are two ways that you can equip this tank. Gredgy's got the 12.8cm main armament, but there is also a super scary 15cm main armament there as well. But for the reduced caliber, what Gredgy gets here is about a 15% increase in his damage per minute. He gets slightly higher penetration, albeit only hitting for 490 alpha instead of the 750 alpha. The aim time and the dispersion is also a little bit lower as well. But despite the loss of alpha, this doesn't seem to be affecting Gredgy's early game impact, where within 40 seconds of the game starting, he's already sent CS52 Lease back to the garage for what is likely to be their single shortest game of their session today. An aggressive push by Gredgy's team towards the hill. Looks like they've claimed battlefield initiative here. That's a lot of numbers they have up on the hill, such that enemy vehicles are forced to fall back and try to do something else, including this ELC even 90 who's copping fire from all sorts of directions with a goodnight kiss here from Gredgy. They're doing fantastically well here so far, with 2 kills from 2 shots. So with the benefit of a little bit of hindsight, this setup position was actually quite ideal for Gredgy. Quite often what you see, and you can see this replicated on the A0 position, you've already got 2 tank destroyers there, and they're going to be really good at covering the hill, but unfortunately, with the amount of success that the team has had in setting up on that hill, both those tank destroyers are not exceptionally useful, and already we can actually see them moving forward to try to press their advantage. By no stretch of the imagination, however, does it mean that the enemy team has given up on it. We already see Progetto 46 here playing from hull down, even setting the opposite Progetto 46 on fire, but it's copped a bit of damage in the process and now left itself clippable to the EBR 75 FL10. And despite an unopposed push through the one line, it appears Gredgy's team is now meeting resistance, with Ferdinand shutting down AMX CDA 105. Quite a lot of tank destroyers downrange of them. They're trying to deal with them, with Lerva shutting down Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger. Gredgy decides to push in the meantime and try to provide some release. But as he's crossed the bridge, he's also run into the Barask, putting a nice hit into it, but leaving it clippable again to EBR 75 FL10. With the enemy team 4 guns down, Gredgy pushes on. He really needs to crack this nest of tank destroyers that's stopping those vehicles from the one line from breaking out. Ferdinand once again returning to strike from behind. Massive hit into 53 TP and a fire that sends it back to the garage. Despite early seizure of the hill, there's still quite a formidable backline on the enemy team that's defending it. Kampfpanzer 7 RH heads down to try to break it, but is knocked out by ISU 152. Progetto 46 seconds later being shut down by the P44 Pantera. Gredgy pushes on, determined to break this nest of tank destroyers that's now keeping the Lerva pinned down. Gets a nice hit into Jagdpanzer 105, and then it pushes on to try to flank. EBR 75 FL10 rounds on the enemy P44 Pantera, and unfortunately misses both shots, going down in turn to the enemy charioteer. With the destruction of the EBR 75 FL10, this has probably given Gredgy a bit of pause as he ponders his next move, but sometimes the next move just happens to be thrust upon you as Lynx 6x6 bursts out of cover. Gredgy gives it a tremendous repair build, but Lynx is onto it, and they've actually knocked off half of Gredgy's hit points in this encounter. And this is a major problem because there's Scorpion G downrange. Gredgy needs to get his gun online and silence it quickly, but it's P44 Pantera that services the enemy tank destroyer. Now we're still trying to provide some desperate relief here to this Lerva, but it's not doing a terrible job itself, shutting down SU 130 PM, but there's still one more enemy gun with charioteer looming forward and shutting down the Lerva. The heavy's destruction does not go unanswered, however, with Stridsvagn S1 knocking out Jagdpanzer 105. So despite a initially rather defensive posture, this does seem to be working out for the enemy team. WZ-121 FT knocking out T-103. That's yet another tank of Gredgy's team that had occupied the hill early. Their tank destroyers had completely blunted the offensive through the one line, despite having next to no resistance as they made their way through the initial choke point. And now we can see the enemy is actually starting to exploit that. Lynx 6x6 is hit that position. It started to head north, and so Gredgy decides, well, I've got to head north and defend this cap circle, because the last thing we want is this Lynx 6x6 running around flinging high explosive willy-nilly. Now, it hasn't committed just yet. We can see it's just poking around that H2 area. It may have actually seen the friendly Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger that's currently in that little mining encampment there, so perhaps it's holding back. But regardless, Gredgy will proceed over the bridge and try to defend the cap circle. Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger, of course, is not one of the most gainly vehicles around. It has maximum forward speed of 35 kilometers per hour, so you kind of have to commit to whatever path you're taking. Unfortunately, he has taken this path because he found the enemy Ferdinand and put a very nice hit into its side. That's left the Tier 8 German tank destroyer one-shottable for Gredgy's 12.8cm main armament. Gredgy will also be able to use his superior concealment rating to lay ambush to the enemy Ferdinand. It's the enemy P-44 Pantera, however, that is preventing any further advances by Gredgy's team off that hill, but the T-44-100 has got it spotted and Su-130PM is getting shots on target. That just leaves it one-shottable for T-44-100, who rounds the bottom of the hill and sends it packing. Gredgy's plans to ambush, however, has turned it more into plans to flank, with Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger being caught somewhat in the middle of the map here and the enemy Ferdinand turning to face. Gredgy heads in to try to catch the back end of the Ferdinand, hopefully before it can shut down its teammate. But a spectacular entry by the enemy Lynx 6x6 punctuates the destruction of Gredgy's twin. Fortunately, Gredgy still has an even chance of one-shotting this Ferdinand, so he continues to push around the corner, but Ferdinand has anticipated and turned to face, putting a sufficient armor facing in front of Gredgy that ends up blocking the shot. Now, Gredgy's in real trouble here because he's potentially one-shottable to the Ferdinand as well, but Gredgy gets in first with a lower frontal plate shot, shutting down Ferdinand. Attempting to replicate the success of the enemy P-44 Pantera, T-44-100 is prowling the low ground looking for enemy tank destroyers, but the enemy tank destroyers find them first. Skoda T-27 appears to be having a little bit more success in this department, however, lighting the enemy charioteer with its eyes and following up with its gun. Su-130PM also has designs on an enemy WZ-120, but also finds the enemy ISU-152, backpedaling as quickly as it can, but not quite fast enough to avoid a garaging from its 122mm main armament. And while it in turn attempts best endeavours to backpedal out of that situation, follow-up fire from P-44 Pantera ends up sending it back to the garage as well. So while things are developing for the better in the south, things are not going so well in the west, with the friendly Scorpion G getting towed up by an advance by an enemy IS-6 and Lynx 6x6, with the wheelie delivering the coup de grace. Covering all these battlefield peripheral events, it's actually been a bit of a minute since we've checked in on Gredgy, and now Gredgy is actually in quite a good position here to deal with this enemy advance, with the IS-6 pushing through from the west, looking for shots of opportunity between the rail carriages, and while we did see a silhouette there, wasn't quite wide enough an angle, but here it is, and it knocks out the IS-6 for kill number 4. Now, while all that was going down, Skoda T-27 was attempting to dig out WZ-121G FT, but unfortunately the Chinese tank destroyer has dug back. They've really taken this Skoda T-27 to task, and although it's emptied its magazine, it's been left in a very vulnerable position against these Chinese tank destroyers that are just known for horrendous damage per minute, and they end up going down overall. But they are still well supported by the P-44 Pantera in Overwatch, who follows up as quickly as they can with their 3-shot drum loader. But it looks like they've dived into the magazine and they have had to pull back to reload. But with another shell in the tube, they follow up for the final shot on WZ-121FT, and adds to this growing pile of bodies in that sector of the map. And with that done, it is now one enemy vehicle left, the Lynx 6x6. They are outnumbered 3-1, and they have also lost the initiative here. We already have the Stridsvagn S1 starting the cap. Now, what this can potentially do is draw Lynx 6x6 out, attempting to reset, which it may well be able to do. It certainly has the mobility and the concealment rating to avoid being spotted and shot while it resets the cap. And while often these cap victories are somewhat frowned upon, really, I think most participants in this fight would have much better things to do than spend the next 5 minutes running around after an enemy wheelie. Now, as we say that, the enemy Lynx 6x6 does make its appearance, and it's over the opposite side of the friendly cap circle. Absolutely no chance of capping this one out at this point in time. But P-44 Pantera looks like it's considering the chase. It's actually jumped off cap. It is still just Stridsvagn S1 that is holding on. So they could still be subject to a rather cheeky reset, and this game could continue. But it's still nearly 5 minutes on the clock here So anything can happen at this point in the game. Gredgy rather smartly positioning to provide overwatch not just to the friendly cap circle but also down through the valley in case Lynx 6x6 is making a cross. But in the end it is Stridsvarn S1's cap efforts that prevail, and that is a win for Gredgy. Let's take a look at the results. So Gredgy of the New Zealand native contingent has come away with an ace mastery badge in the tier 8 German tank destroyer Rheinmetall-Borsig Waffenträger. This places him as the top 1% of experience point earners in that vehicle for that week. He's picked up a couple of epic medals as well. We've got the high caliber medal for causing damage that accounted for at least 20% of the total hit point pool of enemy vehicles. He's also picked up the tanker sniper medal, where he has caused the highest damage per battle for at least 300 meters. Now there are a few other conditions to this. You need to fire at least 8 shots. Your accuracy needs to be at least 85% for the battle, and at least 80% of your hits that land need to penetrate and cause damage. Adding to the doctrine of precision, you also cannot hit any allies in the course of the battle. He's also picked up a few badges of merit here. Demolition Expert for absolutely nuking that CS52 lease within the first 40 seconds of the game. Good times. He's picked up the Fight Medal for accounting for 4 kills on the enemy team, and the Fire for Effect medal, which you always get that when you get the high caliber medal. Having a look at the team scores, this was a rather significant top placement by experience points. Coming in second was Kenny You Bastard of the Lancers in the P44 Pantera, who had a fantastic game themselves there. 3 kills taken and 2,700 hit points. They were laying down a very effective base of fire from the hill, having taken it very early in the game. Special mention on the enemy team to Aussie Firefighter of the Templar Knights in the WZ-120 1GFT. Nearly 2,600 hit points of damage inflicted on Gredgy's team and taking 2 kills. In fact, the tank destroyers on the enemy team did perform universally quite well, with the ISU 152 taking 3 kills and Cornholio in the Ferdinand also taking 3 kills. Looking to the detailed report, this was quite a profitable game here for Gredgy. No other credit inputs here from boosters or mission completions, and in the absence of using any consumables or premium ammunition, that profited to the tune of about 46,000 credits. Now I've got a few tankers who I'd like to thank for contributing their replays that had allowed us to feature so many different points of view of this battle. We have KujoKujo of the Templar Knights in the premium tier 8 Russian tank destroyer T103. We also have the theacehamster of the Lancers clan in the premium tier 8 Russian tank destroyer Su-130 PM, and NATO 88 of the Templar Knights in the premium Swedish tank destroyer Stridsvarn S1, who was particularly valuable, having been able to survive to the end of the battle and just keep that footage rolling. So that's it from me on YouTube for this week, ladies and gentlemen. But if you like your replay action, then please do check out our Twitch channel. Although we slowed down production on the YouTube side of things to try to amp up the quality, we've been doing replay coverage over on our Twitch channel on Saturday afternoons, so you can check out the highlights there as well. And if you've got replays of your own that you'd like to submit, please do swing by our Discord and drop your replays on our submission platform. We'd love to see what sort of games come out of the community of ordinary tankers doing extraordinary things. In the meantime, take care out there.